Hello, my name is Chloe, welcome to my channel, and today I'm bringing to you my February wrap-up. In February I read 13 books. I was quite impressed with this. I think I could have done better, but 13 is definitely a good number. And I had a pretty good reading month. I had 3 5-star books, 3 4-star books, 6 3-star books, 1 2-star book, and no 1-star books. So that means my average rating was a 3.6. I did have a lot of 3-star reads, but to have 3 4 and 3 5-star reads is still pretty good out of 13 books, at least I think it is. So what I'm going to do is start from the bottom and work my way up to my favourite 5-star read. So first, the 2-star read was That Wedding by Gillian Dodd. This will make more sense in a moment because this is book number 2 of the That Boy series. This definitely wasn't a bad story. It just repeated itself again and again and again to the point I was getting quite frustrated. And there were a lot of scenes that could have gone into more detail to make it of a more enjoyable read. There were too many ... dots. Think of what's happening in your own head for my liking, and I think if it's branded as an adult romantic book, then there should have been a bit more detail without sounding strange. Moving on to the 3-star books, the first one there is That Boy by Gillian Dodd, which was the first book in the series. So I enjoyed this a lot more than the second book. It still wasn't amazing. There is nothing profound about these stories. It is following a girl called something which has slipped my mind. Jaden. Following a girl called Jaden who is best friends with 2 boys, Danny and Philip. So in the first book, we follow their relationships as they grow older. So they meet when they're very young, and this follows them up to sort of graduating college age, which I don't know what that is in America, but somebody will. But yeah, I did find it quite interesting. It was just a cheesy romance, if I'm quite honest. But I am glad I've read it. I did have an enjoyable time with the audiobook. And then the third book is an audiobook as well, and that is What I Saw and How I Lied by Judy Blundell. I read the physical book when I was much younger and saw the audiobook on Scribd, so decided to give it a go. And again, there was nothing bad about this story. It was okay. I just think there were elements that didn't go into enough detail for me. Whether this was because it was aimed at a younger audience, I don't know. But there was a lot of World War II history in this book, which I think it could have gone into more detail with to sort of bulk the story up a little bit more. But apart from that, I did enjoy it. 3 stars is not a bad rating. It was okay. I would recommend it, but it just wasn't amazing. As physical book I read of these is 7 Ways We Lie by Riley Redgate. I read this in the Contemporary-a-thon, so I'll link my vlog so you can see my direct reactions of this. And again, there was nothing bad about this book. It just wasn't amazing. My main issue that knocked this down from a 4 to a 3 for me is that it does follow 7 different perspectives, one of which is told in verse. Telling in verse is not my cup of tea, and following 7 perspectives did get quite confusing at times. But again, I would recommend this book. It deals with a lot of high school, growing up subjects, and yeah, it is good if you like things being told in verse and if you can handle 7 different things going on at once, which is something I definitely did struggle with. Next, I have The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. I again read this in the Contemporary-a-thon, I think, and this whole month is like blurred together at this point. This is about a girl called Natasha, who her and her family are being deported to Jamaica in the day that this book is set, and a boy called Daniel who has a American Korean family. I apologise if I've got that wrong. This was a little while back I read this now. And this is all about how they interact and Natasha's struggle with what is going to be happening to her at the end of the day. And I did enjoy this, don't get me wrong. I just think the topic was not maybe handled in the way that I expected it to be. I thought that her being deported would be the major theme of the book, but it seemed to get a bit sidetracked. And I think it was lost in the story. But again, 3 stars is not bad. I liked it. It just didn't knock my socks off, but it's good. Okay. Next, I have The Polar Bear Explorers Club by Alex Ball. I read this in the Polathon, and again, it wasn't bad. This was a children's book, and I listened to an audiobook. The only issues I had were obviously it's aimed at children. It wasn't my cup of tea. I probably would have enjoyed it if I was 10 years younger. I probably would have thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. But for now, it wasn't my cup of tea. And I did find the narrator really patronising. And again, he would be speaking to children. But it had to knock the rating down for me. I would recommend this. I know that Jade, who hosted the readathon, she recommends this very highly. It just wasn't my cup of tea. Finally, in the 3-star reads, we have The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. This is an adult thriller novel, and again, I didn't hate it, but it did take me about a week to get into, of just reading a couple pages at a time. It put me in a bit of a slump at the start of the month, and the story wasn't that profound. Like, you could have... It took me a while to work it out, but I don't read a lot of thrillers. But as soon as we found out who the... can't think of the word. Perpetrator, criminal, murderer, whatever he did. As soon as we found out who he was, it made perfect sense. And I know how people worked it out before. And I just think it could have... I want to watch the film to see if I prefer that or I prefer the book. But this all starts with a woman on the train watching two people in a garden that she goes past every day. And that happens for a lot of the start of the book. And it was boring. But again, it wasn't bad. Now we move on to my more favourite books in the month, and we're on the 4 stars. The first book being The Cheerleaders by Cara Thomas. Again, this was an audiobook, and I did enjoy it. I thought the story was interesting, and this is basically about a girl who whose older sister was part of the cheerleaders, and one year basically all of the cheerleaders get killed off, and they're all in some sort of suspicious circumstances. Well, there's a murder, there's a car accident, there's a suicide, and they all happen about the same time. And our main character, I can't remember for the life of me her name at this point, she doesn't want to accept what has happened. She's obviously mourning the loss of her sister, and I did really enjoy that element of the book. It was very emotional. I really sympathised with the character, but I don't like stories where a teenager is smarter than the police. I think that just puts a lot of distrust in society and I find it quite difficult to read, because even not in this book, in books in particular, they'll pick something up that the police have missed, which is so obvious, and that to me isn't realistic, and it sort of sets the book on a slightly more negative tone then. So I liked the story, I liked the mystery, but I didn't like being smarter than the police, if that makes sense. So that bumped it down a star for me. But again, 4 stars, really liked it. Next I have Frostbite by Rochelle Mead. This is the second book in the Vampire Academy series, and I read this, I think, in the Polathon. I didn't have a problem with this. It was good, it was entertaining. I completely flew through it, but I gave Vampire Academy 5 stars, and this didn't quite hit the mark. So again, definitely not bad, just not as good as the first book in the series. And the next 4 star and the last 4 star is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I buddy read this with Brittany from the Neverending Reader, and she gave it 5 stars. I had to knock it down a star. I loved, this is all about a girl called, I can't remember. This is all about a girl called Scarlet who writes letters to Legend, who runs the game of Caraval, which is a magic, mysterious game that when she was little, her grandmother told her stories about it, and then it's all gone very quiet. And then Scarlet and her sister Tella get tickets to Caraval. And the game is, I loved it. It was all don't trust anyone, so you're second guessing yourself the whole way through. I know me and Brittany were bouncing texts backwards and forwards, like, do you trust this person, do you trust this person, what's happening here, who's that? And that was amazing. But the ending had to knock a star off for me. It actually made me angry. Obviously I can't tell you how it ended, but to me it was on par with And It Was All a Dream. That is not what happens. I'm not spoiling this book for you. But that is the sort of level I took that ending at, as, oh my God, this is bad. So yeah, was not a fan of the ending, but the rest of the book was amazing. I am on the hunt for Legendary, the second book, and I want it in this edition, so I'm being very specific. But as soon as I get that, I will be picking up that book because I am intrigued to see where the story goes. And finally, we're on the 5-star books. So the first book that I gave 5 stars was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets in my gorgeous 20th anniversary Ravenclaw edition. I absolutely love it. I can't read Harry Potter and rate it less than 5 stars, if I'm quite honest with you. It was obviously amazing. I'm not going to tell you what Harry Potter's about, but yeah, reread this month, and it was an obvious 5 stars. Next I have They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This book made me cry, like ugly cry. And it was in one of my reading the vlogs. Again, it might have been the Contemporary-a-thon. And I filmed my reaction after and I was speechless. I choked back a tear. It was absolutely perfect. So this book is about a society where you are called the day you are going to die. And they'll say you will die within some point within the next 24 hours. There is an app in this society called Last Friend where you can either, if you're dying or would like to make friends with somebody who is going to die that day, you can meet up and make that day memorable. And I really loved it. I thought that it was such a terrifying idea. Like, imagine if we had that. But at the same time, really interesting. What would happen if we had that? Who knows? But yeah, I absolutely love this book. I just got too emotional to give it anything less than 5 stars. And finally, the last 5-star read was 5 Feet Apart by Rachel Lippincott. This, oh my God, might have made me more upset than They Both Die at the End. I cannot wait. There is a film coming out on this soon, and the idea of watching that just makes me emotional. But I might have to link my February book haul because I did buy this month and read it this month. And I think I talk a little bit more about what this book is about, because I can't go into it again. It's far too emotional. But yeah, as soon as this film comes out, I will be jumping on it. Alright, so those are the 13 books I managed to read this month. Let me know if you've read any of these books and you have different opinions. I'd love to talk to you about them, or even if you've read Caraval and want to talk about the ending, because I just need someone to vent to. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.